tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to cast on using the long tail cast on method. And here I have a swatch in which I cast it on using that method. And as you can see, the long tail cast on method gives us this nice twirled edge. And it's a very sturdy cast on. If you were to cast on a cuff down sock or a bottom up sleeve, this cast on is great because it has a lot of give to it, but it also holds its shape. So it's a very sturdy cast on. So we're going to look at how to achieve it. So first we're going to learn how to do the long tail cast on the slingshot method. So we have our needles and we have our yarn. So as it sounds, the long tail cast on, we need to leave a long tail. So I'm going to leave about this much for now, and we'll talk more about how to estimate the tail a little bit later. And so to set up, we just have our yarn laying on our hand, and you're going to take your index and your thumb and you're going to separate the two strands. You see I have my needle between them, and I'm just going to hold that with my other index finger and grab the two yarns hanging down with the rest of my fingers like this, and then we just pull it down. And this is the slingshot of the slingshot method. And now we're ready to start making our stitches. We take our needle and we go into this loop on our thumb, and then we grab the loop around our index finger, and then we go back through the loop on our thumb, and then we just drop it and tighten. And that made 2 stitches from when we just started with our thread, but now we're going to make 1 stitch every stitch after. So we just put our needle in the loop on our thumb, swing it around to our index finger, drop it, and tighten. And if you ever have to readjust, you just separate the 2 strands, bring it down, and you're back as a slingshot. So we're just grabbing, going into, this is almost like a stitch, like a knit stitch. We just go into it, grab from our index finger, and here, see, we go back through the loop on our thumb. And that's the long tail cast on slingshot method. Now we're going to look at how to do the long tail cast on the loop method. I'm not quite sure of the proper name for it, but essentially it's if you can't quite, sometimes it's hard to do this slingshot, which we just looked at. Some people don't like to do it, it's uncomfortable to do it, so there's another way to do it. And so we're going to hold our needle like this. And you can start with just the loop like we did with the slingshot method, but sometimes it's easier if you just start with a slip knot. For stability's sake, I'm going to start with the slip knot, but you can just lay the yarn over the needle like we did with the slingshot if you want. And so you're going to have your needle like this, and then you're going to take, this is your tail over here, this is your working yarn. It doesn't matter which side, just whichever you prefer. So I have 1 strand over here, and I have another strand over here. I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to go into that loop with my needle. I'm going to wrap. I'm going to throw it over and tighten. I'm essentially knitting just with 2 strands, and it has the same result. So this is just an alternative way, but it still makes the same cast on. Just make a loop, put it on the needle, wrap the needle, and throw it over. And that's the long tail cast on the thumb loop method. The last thing we're going to talk about in this tutorial is how to estimate how much tail you're going to need for casting on. The long tail cast on method is a great cast on. It's sturdy, it's stretchy, but you do need to have the amount of right amount of tail to cast on all your stitches. Now if you're just casting on something small, it's very easy to estimate. You know, if I need just 10 stitches, well, this will probably do it. And if it doesn't, I can just rip it out and cast on those 10 stitches. But if you're casting on something big, you're casting on for a sweater or anything that's large in width or in circumference, you're not going to want to, you know, be 10 stitches shy because you ran out of tail. And so the way to estimate for your long tail cast on, it's not an exact estimation, it'll give you more than you need, which is much better than less than you need, is what you're going to do is you're going to take your yarn and you're going to lay it over your needle, the needle you will be casting on with. You're going to leave a little bit of a tail, as much as you would usually leave if you were just making a slip knot and casting on a different method. So we're going to have that lay there, and then we're going to hold our yarn over our needle. We're going to wrap it. So I'm going to wrap it, I like to wrap it about 10 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to let that go. I know that this amount of yarn from here to here, that will give me 10 stitches, and I'll have a good amount of tail left over. Now let's say for my project I'm going to cast on 50 stitches. Well, I know this amount of tail will give me 10, so if I double it, I now have enough for 20. Triple it, I have enough for 30. Reach over here, that's 40, and that's 50. So this amount of tail is quite a bit of tail. It's more than enough, but it will definitely give me 50 stitches. So if I just start my cast on here, I can, whoops, cast on, and I know I will have enough for 50 stitches. It'll give you a lot more tail than you will need, definitely more, but it's better than running out of tail. And that's how to estimate your tail length to cast on with the long tail cast on method.